Well, good morning. This is John Raymond. I'm the owner and broker for Raymond Realty and Resort Reseller, and this is our first broadcast of Timeshare Talks. And this morning I have with me my good friend Irene Parker. I've known her for many years, and she's an independent writer, and she has a lot to say about the timeshare industry. Good morning, Irene.
Good morning, John. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is great. So this morning we wanted to talk about questions about the secondary market. And Irene, I think it was your question that you said you wanted to know why the value of timeshares and the resale market is so low.
Yeah, that's a question that has been proposed by someone who's involved with a Hilton member-sponsored website. And I used my example of someone from the timeshare lobby said, there's no resale value, but people don't mind that because they value the experience. Well, he completely disagrees with that, but I understood it because we bought a timeshare in the Ozarks in 1984 for $6,000, and we used it for 35 years and exchanged it over the world. I didn't care if there was a resale value, but his concern is that your frame of reference is traditional real estate. So if it's not specifically disclosed to some people, especially now timeshares can be so expensive, to understand before you purchase the low resale value. And why do you think resale values are so low that with some resorts you have to pay to have the timeshare taken back?
It's a big subject, but it starts out with what you just said. You're represented by a real estate agent, and you believe that you're buying a piece of property that's going to go up in value, and you're told that it's vacation property in a good location, and that if you're paying $20,000 or $30,000 for this, like any good vacation property, it would go up in value. And I think that's wrong that they were told that. Today, now what we have is people like yourself that bought it many, many years ago. They're done traveling. They have in mind that this was an investment that they made that was like any other investment. They expected it to be worth more than what they initially bought it for. And they don't realize that two things: they overpaid, and they overpaid, and there is too many people trying to get out of their timeshare. So it's a supply and demand problem. So we have thousands of listings and only hundreds of buyers. And so it's a buyer's market. Buyers can make any type of offer that they want to because there's too many sellers. And one of the biggest problems is there's two groups of timeshare resort companies in this resale industry. And the one is one group will exercise their right of first refusal, which means when an offer comes in too low, the resort will exercise their right and they will buy the timeshare themselves for the negotiated price. The other group of resorts are not exercising any right of first refusal, and values can plummet to as low as $1 or less. And so the major brands, Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, Westin, and Disney, are all companies that are active in exercising right of first refusal. So the value is low. I mean, if you paid $20,000, $30,000 for your timeshare, you're lucky to get $4,000 or $5,000 for it in the resale market. That's terrible to begin with, but that's because those companies are exercising the right of first refusal. Other companies who are not, then they could sell for anything. And those are two reasons why I think the market's so low.
Well, and the other thing that I think would be of interest to people is people in our situation where my husband is, we're both getting older, and we transferred one timeshare to a daughter and we deeded back another. and are in the process of deeding back our timeshare points, but we're not to, it's not that we can't travel. We just don't want the estate burdened with something that's going to require our heirs to have to deal with. So then what? And I've just learned today that renting other people's timeshare is an option, and we can actually do that through resort resellers.
Oh, yes. You can do that through us, and many other options are available. We try and help people. It's not like selling a timeshare. It's not easy because there's too many of them, and the same thing is with renting. You have to have a good week and a good location, but you can rent them, and it really does help with maintenance fees, so that you're not burdened with losing that maintenance fee if you can't use the week. I rented many of mine out. I either use our own service, or I've called the resorts and asked them if they have a service, and many of them do. And so some of mine have been rented that way.
And you avoid paying the taxes, like when you book a hotel or something, the taxes that they add on can be astronomical. When you rent, do you have to add tax on to that?
Some cities have a bed tax, and that's part of knowing which city you're in, and what it's not exorbitant, but some cities just do it.
And do you concentrate in California, or can you rent resorts all across the country?
Anywhere.
Okay.
That is, in my company, that is a blossoming, what do you call it, thing that we're helping people with. We really haven't done too much of it in our own company. We have our own weekly houses that we rent out for short-term rentals, 1 week, 2 weeks, and a month at a time, all along the Carlsbad and Oceanside coastline.
Okay, well, both of our phone numbers are displayed here, and we loved our timeshares for 35 years, and then we had the experience of attending a very predatory, dishonest presentation, and I looked on TripAdvisor and I read some horrific accounts, and I thought, venting on Facebook or TripAdvisor, I didn't even know how to use Facebook at the time, it isn't really helping. So we want to encourage people that are interested in renting or selling anything in that area to call into you, or if people are need questions about how to negotiate directly with their resort to resolve disputes. I'm of the belief that rarely is an attorney or an exit company needed, but then, not everybody has the time or temperament to work directly, and sometimes back and forth and rebuttals, and sometimes regulatory filings are required. But I appreciate the opportunity. This was kind of a serendipity thing where Wayne Robinson, author of Everything About Timeshare Before, During, and After the Sale, suggested this, and we're looking forward to having him on. You hosting Wayne in a future episode. He's an absolute expert on Mexico and Caribbean timeshares, and to invite not just people who have questions about their timeshare, but people that are in the industry that would like to take my place in the passenger side and have you interview them as well.
Yes, Wayne's book is really helpful. I get phone calls from people every day whose timeshare really doesn't have any value, and I can't help them. And so I always point them to Wayne's book. But first, I always tell them that they really should call the resort and see if they have a deed back program. And more resorts are offering that. I think that the demand is getting higher and higher, and I think it's the first step anyone should take is call the resort. And if your timeshare has value, I can tell you if it has some value, and I can help you sell it. But most timeshares just don't have any value, and that's where we would start the resort. And then second, read Wayne's book. Boy, I'll tell you, it's really an eye opener, very helpful, and you can be relieved of your timeshare.
Yeah, and the way that you and I met was interesting because after I did attend that predatory presentation, I had decided I wanted to sell my points, and I called a couple of the people in the organization of licensed resale brokers that you had belonged to or still belong to, and was told that they would accept a listing for any major timeshare company except my timeshare. And so I surveyed all 64 members of your organization, and that's how I've become pretty good friends with several of the members. And you feel bad when people call you and say, I paid $12,000 for this timeshare 25 years ago, so I'd like to list it for around 5 or 8,000, and when there's no value and you're just having to turn away a lot of listings, don't you?
Daily, every single day, I get phone calls from people that want to sell, and most people, I have to say exactly what I said. Your resort, by Wayne Robinson's book. I can't help you. I wish I could. I'll put your timeshare on my website. There will be no charge to do that. We don't charge any upfront fees. I'll advertise timeshare for you, but please know that I probably won't even get an offer for $1 for it. And we have a commission. As I'm a realtor, I have to be paid a commission if I actually help you put together a deal with somebody.
Well, and in closing, I just like to add that it's the resorts will say, just call your resort. But then I will have especially seniors that may be age impaired attempt to do that, and they're told to find a buyer. And so I have them talk to you first to find out if it's a resort that brokers will not accept the listing for, so they know how to talk back to the resort. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that many people need support and guidance. And it doesn't always work to just call your resort. But the resorts, a few of them have been very receptive and actually appreciative to have. I'm a part of a network of volunteers, and I'm looking forward to having a member of Timeshare and Resort Developer Accountability on to talk about the network of volunteers to help people that it's confusing to know. Some states, if you do have to file a regulatory complaint, you file with the real estate division. Other states, the attorney general. It can be very confusing and what to expect. And some timeshare members and owners have unrealistic expectations. So thank you so much for this opportunity. This is our first Wing It, and to see what happens, to see if we're going to allow this to go live or not. But I've really enjoyed talking to you today.
My pleasure, Irene, and look forward to the future. And we'll get Wayne Robinson on here soon. I think it's going to happen in the next week or so. We'll make that announcement. And our phone numbers are below. Both of us are open for any kind of help we can offer you to sell your timeshare. If you're interested in buying a timeshare,
or renting a timeshare.
Yeah, we can help you save a lot of money from developer costs. Anyway, until next week, thank you very much for all of you joining us.
Thank you.